2 of the Autodesk Formit training. Now, in session 1, we covered most of the basic tools in order to produce a structure. Now, the thing to remember is that Autodesk Formit is a concept modeling software, so it's very much producing initial ideas for shapes and for forms for a building. And the value of that will become apparent now in this session, because the purpose of this session will be to explore some of the add-on features of the software that allow you to do some more complex stuff, like create shadow studies, solar analysis, and energy analysis. Now, before we do that, there's some things that we need to do to the model. So the first thing I want to show you is how to create levels. Now, levels are really important because they will then allow us to conduct some of the analysis at later stages. If you don't input the levels, then the software won't understand the area for which you're talking about. So as you can see here, currently you've got the gross area in square meters and it's set at 0. So it's 0 square meters. So because it's not recognizing any levels as we talk now. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create some levels. So on the right hand side, you'll see a little, if I hover over that, it'll say levels. So I click on that now, and I'm going to get to add level, or I can add multiple levels. So I'm going to add multiple levels. And it just so happens, yours will probably say 10, and it'll say 3 meters distance between levels. But because I've just done a run through with this to generate some of the analysis to save some time, I've set it to 3 levels at 4 meters apart. This building that I've drawn, which is my school in Manchester, is about 12 meters high. It's got 3 levels, so that's what I'm going to do. So I've got 3 levels, 4 meters. I'm going to press OK. So you see now that it's assigned levels at level 0. Level 1 is at 0 meters. Level 2 is at 4 meters. Level 3 is at 8 meters high. However, that's not been added to the model as of yet, so we need to let it know that we want to actually add this to the model. So the first thing I want to do now is just making sure that I'm on the arrow tool, so the select arrow tool. I'm just going to click and drag over all of my building, and you'll then get the option in the properties box, which is the top one. It's now changed in the properties box, and it gives us the option to use levels. So if I tick that now, you'll see now that it's put these blue lines running through our building, which indicates now that it's assigned levels to that, which is great. So if I then sorry, if I just go to that, and if I just click in the space now, right, so if I've clicked out into the space now, so the building is no longer highlighted, but now look at the gross area. So it now gives us the gross area of that building, so that's the 3 levels combined. So each of those levels is approximately 5,000 square meters. So the 3 levels equates to 15,800 and so on square meters, which is really useful just in terms of getting an idea of how much floor space you've got. That in itself is quite a useful tool. The other thing I'm going to show you before we move on to some of the analysis stuff is just how to create materials for the walls. Just again, it's a concept model just to give it a little bit more of a realistic look about it. So the second tab down on the right hand side, you've got a little paintbrush, and that allows you to add some materials. Now you've already got some sample materials there. Now you can import materials, you can add your own materials in, you can use images and so on, but I'm just going to use the ones we've got here. So let's just use CDU, and then if I click that now, all I need to do is click on the walls I want to turn to that colour, and I can quite quickly then start to assign the material to each of these walls. Right, so I'm just moving quite quickly. I'm using that middle mouse button again just to navigate in and out and around. And the more you do this, the more used to this you get. Like I say, I'm by no means an expert on this software. I've just used it a bit with my students, and you just become more familiar. So I'm just going to go back to those samples, and I'm going to have, let's have a dark stone roof. Okay, so I'm just going to put some dark stone on there. And then, if you've got some quite detailed features on your building, so in last session, if you put things like doors, windows, then each of those separate objects you can colour. Obviously, this is just quite a basic model, so it doesn't have any detailing on. But if you want a feature wall, for example, you can change an individual wall quite comfortably. Let's go for let's have a little bit of orange on there as well, so just so you can see. Obviously, you can change that quite comfortably. Okay, great. So the next thing then is we're going to have a look at how this building is going to perform. All right, so this would be, again, really good if you are comparing some initial ideas. If your students have created a number of different ideas or concepts for the deck connector ward, and they want to compare which one at this stage, in the early stages, might be the more appropriate to carry forward, then you've got some additional tools at the top here. So if I click on the sun and shadow, it gives me some options. So you've got the shadows have already turned on. You can put the sun editor on, but what this allows you to do is, by changing the time of year, you can see where the shading will be on that building, and therefore where the cooler and where the warmer parts of the building are, which again might impact on how you orientate the building or where you position it within the site, so that it's not impairing on the sun of other buildings, or so that other buildings aren't impairing on the sun of this building. And then also you can change the time of day, so you can see during the day, where's going to be the areas that are shaded, where's going to be the areas that are the coolest and the warmest, and so on. And it's quite a useful tool. Okay, so you'll also notice on mine, I've got a little pro symbol here, which is basically telling me in order to access this solar analysis, I need to have a pro account. Now, I'm hoping because you are using your work emails that you can access all of Autodesk's tools, because you've got an education account. So when I do this at school using my school email address, I can access all of these regardless. So I don't have to worry about, I've got to go pro. Now, what I've had to do for the purpose of this is, when I went to click on energy analysis before, I had to do a 30-day free trial. So if it does come up, then you can do a 30-day free trial. It's no problem, and then we can look at making sure that your institute is registered with Autodesk, so therefore you can access all the materials and all the tools. So the next thing I want to do is an energy analysis. So we're now going to look at how this building is going to perform. So yours will be just next to this location icon there, and it will say Pro over it. Now, what you want to do is click Generate Insight. Now, when you click Generate Insight, it will say Analysis in Progress, and then this bar will slowly start to go up. However, I don't want to do that because I've already created one. So I'm just going to flip to a new tab where I've already created this analysis, just to save time, because it can take 10 minutes perhaps in order to do that. And what it does is it gives you a whole raft of information, which is really useful for the early stages of the design process. The important thing at this stage is in the top left hand corner here, you'll see 23.3. And because it's an American piece of software, it's in US dollars, and that's per square meter per year. So this building concept that I've created, based on the basic information I've provided in terms of the levels, the floor space, the different zones, they reckon that it'll cost approximately 23.3 US dollars per square meter per year to run, which in itself is a useful piece of information. So if you've got a number of different concepts, if I just scroll down a bit here, if you've got a number of different concepts, then they could show up here on your benchmark comparison, and you can see which ones are going to be the best value in terms of their operational costs. And you can see on this sort of list here that you can see that it starts all the way down at 8.7 US dollars per meter squared per year, all the way up to 54.4. And you can sort of gauge then how suitable that is. If I carry on scrolling down, you've also got all these different options. So you've got building orientation. So what happens if I flip the building 90 degrees? Will that impact on the energy saved? What happens if I change the different glass that I use on the south windows? Or if I use if I change the wall to window ratio? Or if I put shading over the windows? And what you can do is you can study these by clicking on each of them. So on that little tab there, if I click on that now, and if I turn it over, then you can see how much you can save. So if I was to use 95% window to wall ratio, then it's going to cost me about 15 cents per meter square per year more. And then all the way down to having no windows, it would save you 28 cents, which isn't a huge saving, so it's not as relevant. But if we go down and look at some of these others, so you've got the roof construction. So by changing the roof, by changing the wall construction, by the infiltration, so how much air is getting in and out of that space. So if we look at these, then you're going to start to see a bit more of a significant change. Oh, maybe not actually. So again, it's saying $28 if you use uninsulated, and you can save almost $50 if you use the R38 wood wall construction. And again, looking at the roof, yeah, you've got much more significant savings there with the roof. So when it says BIM, that's just the model. So that's just the model being used. You've got uninsulated, R60, R38, and so on, all the way down to R10, which can save you $3. So instead of it being $23, it's $20 per meter squared per year, which is over a 15,000 square meter space, is a significant saving. And it's also a nice little piece of software, because you can get the kids to start doing some maths. So you actually do some quite nice maths with this in terms of getting them to figure out how much these savings are by using some quite simple multiplications and dividing and so on. You've also got things like the plug load efficiency. So by changing the plug load, again, how much you can save again and how much more it can cost, all the way down to the savings that you could make by changing the watts per square meter. Daylight occupancy controls, it's easy for me to say. So by using daylighting and occupancy controls, you can save, again, 0.6 of a US dollar. Lighting efficiency, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, operating schedules, so how often you're going to use the building, using photovoltaic panels, the surface coverage, the payback limit. So there's quite a lot of stuff you can do on there, which again is a really nice introduction to BIM and to digital twins for students, really. So have a play around with that. And again, if there are any issues, then you know how to get in touch with me. But yeah, have a go, and then we will meet during our webinar to discuss how you found it and what worked, what didn't work, how potentially you could use this with the students. Okay, thank you.